Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be hosting episode 1 of the Garrett Vogel podcast. I am Garrett Vogel, and I'm joined with my friend. His name is Pablo Conway. He is an expert in things such as history, politics, and everything in between. Pablo, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I love to do geological surveying, and I've always been involved in politics and history.
Very awesome. So why don't we just get right into it? So why... Oh, no, there's a skeleton there. So I'm going to be playing Minecraft as we talk, if that's okay. Anyways, so Pablo, what's led you into your path to being into politics? Like, what are your views on things such as like the government putting chemicals in the water, free healthcare, things like that? Just tell me a little bit about your stance.
Alright, well, I've gotten interested ever since I heard about government putting chemicals in the frog's water that makes them gay.
Yeah, so I've heard about that recently too. So they're putting like Alex Jones was saying, a lot of people like to make fun of Alex Jones, which I think is a very bad thing. Our society has come as far as being able to make fun of people just because of their political beliefs. But Alex Jones, he's actually one of my favorite people, and I support many of his ideas. Anyways, like what he was saying about the government putting chemicals in the water, I think it is severely impacting our communities and our local society, our society as a whole, because there have been multiple studies on this to show that it's not good and we shouldn't be doing it, and it's just stupid. And like I was saying, like there were these doctors that came into my room last night at around like 13 o'clock, and so I was just laying there, and they wouldn't let me move. They had guns, and they came in and they were telling me about how like the church in the Book of Mormon, the plates of Mormon, they actually talk about like how the from Scientology, the people from the sky, I don't know what they're called because I haven't studied Scientology recently, but they actually came down and they were the ones that enlightened the guy.
Sorry.
What's that?
Sorry, I got muted.
It's alright, man. But they actually are the ones who gave whoever it gave the government basically the idea to start fluoridating the water, which has had, like I said, multiple negative health consequences for the public. So, what do you think about this? What's your opinion on it? I want to hear your standpoint.
Well, as it might seem silly and goofy, it might just be some crappy stuff that, some people might want to believe. It is unfortunately true, as the government is trying to, do many health, cause many health issues to the American society.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So with
especially
the
the tiny
fluoridated water and everything, when has the government ever cared about my health, right? So
Exactly.
it's all very suspicious. So I think, but like I was saying, like the doctors, they come into my room, they tell me all sorts of things. They're like these Russian doctors, and they like to come into my room and at night around like 13 or 14 o'clock, and they'll tell me all sorts of things, and it's really interesting. So like what they were telling me last night, so they came in and they had to use like a car jack, I think they had to get my liver open or my pancreas or something, because I have issues with that or something. I don't know. They were saying something about that. Anyways, and I was there, and as they were cutting open my pancreas, they were talking about how in the Russia-Ukraine war, it's all a global cover-up for what they're actually trying to do, which is the Chinese have been negotiating with. So a lot of things, this thing that people don't actually know. So if you hear the hearing they had in Congress recently about the UFOs and stuff, that's actually been a long time coming, and it's no surprise to everyone. It shouldn't be a surprise, as we've already known that there have been UFOs. Like the Chinese media has already been reporting on it for years, and the American public just doesn't know about it, which is insane. So these Russian doctors that came into my room last night, they I have to board up my windows because they come in through the windows and they climb in. So I just thought about this meme someone sent me my Discord. Anyways, so they climb in through the windows. So I have to board them up and stuff. I used to like tack them shut. And so, like, yeah, I'm kind of getting sidetracked, but yesterday I spent like 2 hours at the hardware store trying to argue with this lady who thought I was crazy. Really, it's just she doesn't know what she's talking about. So, anyways, a lot of uneducated
Sorry,
people.
got muted again.
It's alright. A lot of uneducated people like to say that they're, a lot of uneducated people say that I'm crazy when they're really just uneducated and they don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, so the doctors were telling me that, the Chinese media has been reporting on this for years, and the American public just doesn't know about it. So, what was my visit with the doctors like last night? So, like I said, they were doing something with my pancreas. They were doing an experiment, and they were trying to see if, you know the drug Vioxx that got pulled from the shelves in 2006?
Yes.
Because it was a public health. It caused people to have heart attacks and stuff. So, with the Vioxx scandal, the Russian doctors actually managed, even though it's banned, and there was a whole lawsuit over it and everything, these Russian doctors that climb into my house, they got a sample of Vioxx, and they tied me down to the bed. They got these, like, industrial grade, in surveyor, you're a geological surveyor, so you'll know this, but the big stakes that you can use to survey things and, like, stake out land, those are actually very useful for, like, tacking things down or tying people down to certain things, right? So they got these big, like, tacks, and they tacked me down to my bed by my earlobes, and they were trying to test Vioxx on me to see if it had an application again, which I think is a very interesting prospect. What do you think about that?
Yes, especially because the Vioxx is coming from potato roots near
That's
Poland.
true. Yeah, so in Poland, I heard this recently. In Poland, they're actually trying to grow. Oh crap! I'm gonna die. But they're actually trying to replicate the original, like. So Vioxx was actually found in, I think, 1425, by the father. You know Martin Luther, the guy who advocated against the Catholic Church, and he founded Protestantism. He actually was the guy who found the original recipe for Vioxx, and it's been changed over the years. We've kind of lost it, but he wrote it down. It was one of his works, and it gets overshadowed. Or not Martin Luther, but Martin Luther's father, because he gets overshadowed by Martin Luther. But one of his works was actually discovering what would become Vioxx as a drug. Like, his medicine back then wasn't very advanced, so everyone accused him of, like, being a male witch or things like that, a bunch of awful things, when he really just came up with a great form of medicine. So I think that's very interesting.
And the past 2 times I have been muted was because I muted myself because the government has been trying to get my dog to fart.
Yeah, it does sound very funny, but this is a real issue in our community. So we live in Michigan right now, and there is a base in Michigan that the government does not want you to know about. And the reason the ATF has been known to shoot dogs and things like that is because they this agency, so dogs actually are, like, you've heard the fact that birds are a spy device from the government, right? Because they're just perfect. They're perfect for the job. And if they are natural, here's what I believe. If they are natural things, the government has at least taking advantage of that to actually spy on us and being like, oh no, they're natural, which could be a fact, right? So what was I saying? But yeah, so dogs are actually used for the same purpose, but since they have smell capabilities, and they have microphones implanted into them, and they made an agreement. The government, this is all public. They made an agreement with the pet store companies to do this. it was recently unclassified, and it's just crazy, man. Anyway, so the government will get dogs, and they'll try and like in the food they'll put different like additives and stuff to make the to like recharge, like you know how you can, the science project where you turn an LED light on with a lemon. That's kind of the same principle that the government uses. So in the dog food they put these like little things, these a technology that can use things in the dog food to charge the equipment in the dog. I don't know how it works because I haven't studied this very thoroughly, but I've heard that I've heard from my colleagues, which I'll have in the future on this podcast. I've heard that they do it somehow. So it's not actually that far-fetched of an idea. So like you were saying, your dog, they were trying to make your dog fart. And the reason they do this, it's very interesting. The reason they do this is to test if they test the pH levels of the fart. And how they and why they do this is the pH will be very acidic if as a byproduct of the equipment working from the dog food and everything. The fart will be very acidic. And if it's very basic, then it will be an indicator that the equipment is not working and they're not spying on you. So if you ever get some agents or policemen in your house that are like, oh yeah, we're here to test if your dog's farts, or if you ever see them doing that, that's an indicator that, yeah. So
I
very interesting.
I 100% agree with you. And
Well, no, it's a fact, man. I just told you it's a fact.
But remember, there's also a lot of people who don't want to believe the truth.
Yeah. It's like I was saying, the lady at the hardware store, because I was trying to get boards to like board up my windows so the doctors can't come in and work on me. So when they were doing this, when I was trying to get the boards, this lady was telling me I was crazy and everything. People are so arrogant that they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. It's as simple as that. They don't even want to listen. They won't even consider it for a minute. Because these people are so thick-skulled and arrogant that they won't listen to the truth. And it's very sad, because the government just keeps feeding them the lies, and they just keep eating them.
And to say something, the government is putting so many people, like, they're hiding all the, what's the drug called again?
Vioxx.
Yeah, Vioxx. They are putting so much of that onto Guam that...
Oh yeah, the recent industrial scandal in Guam. The doctors, they told me about this. So in Guam, the government, no one's reporting this, but it's like no one. I mean no one. Not even the Daily Wire. Not even Alex Jones is talking about this, which I think is very interesting. But there's this whole scandal going on in Guam. It's very large. A container ship with these last samples of the original Vioxx recipe that the government has and they don't want you to know about. It crashed in Guam, and all of the Guam citizens are finding out about it, and they're it's all a whole scandal. So everyone's finding out about it, and it's a whole thing.
And my second fear about Guam, about having all this Vioxx and having all this military, all these bases to keep the Vioxx on Guam. I fear that Guam might flip over.
Flip over? Well, what do you mean by that exactly?
It will literally capsize like a whale hitting a boat. Like, it'll capsize.
I think that does have some scientific merit to it. I mean, we've seen that. So in the historical records of islands like Iceland or volcanic islands, islands like Guam, especially being small in size, having a low center of mass, what can happen, or even a high center of mass if you have a lot of population density in it, what can happen is the island can, like the continental crust under it can slip, and the entire island can flip over. That's why we see things like, before the Viking Age, no one had inhabited Iceland. And that was because, and the reason why Iceland is so jagged is because this process actually occurred to Iceland. And that's why the scientists, even though they won't admit this, they say that there's the they have like the continental, what's it called, the rift zone in Iceland. That's where there's volcanoes and everything there. So it's very, it's even like that's even backed up by what a lot of scientists say. So that is true, and it's jagged because it flipped over like a few thousand years ago, like right before the Younger Dryas ended. With the melting of the ice caps due to, I think, okay, let me get started on this the Younger Dryas impact theory. So I don't know if it would have been an impact, but I do think it would have at least been a oh crap. There was probably some ancient civilization. Like, have you seen the show Ancient Aliens on the History Channel?
Oh, yeah, I've actually kind of.
Yeah, so they talk about this, and I think it's pretty true. So what they're saying is, we've actually had aliens around for an insanely long time, and the government, they're just trying to hide it and everything, and they made deals with the aliens and everything. That they occasionally break. That's why we have things like Roswell, or there are accidents that happen. So, here, I need to block this up. Anyways, so there are things like Roswell and all the other UFO incidents. And, yeah. But yeah, so there are all these UFO incidents and people don't know about it. So what the aliens probably did is they saw what was happening on Earth. The entire thing was frozen, and then they couldn't extract all of the valuable resources in the northern hemisphere from this, since it was all frozen. So what they decided to do was, instead of mining through the ice, they redirected a giant meteor, or an asteroid, rather, into the Earth at high velocities, so that all the heat and friction from it and the impact would shatter and melt all the ice. It would raise the global sea levels, therefore covering up all of their evidence that they left. Because they commonly, like, humans inhabit, like, lower elevation areas. The aliens did so, too.
Yeah.
So, when they were doing this, that's what happened. So they covered up all their evidence, right? That was plus number one. Then they could extract all of the resources. And that's also why we have plate tectonics on the Earth.
Yes.
We have plate tectonics because of one of the impact. That was a huge thing. We have a magnetic field. The magnetic field's another interesting thing. The aliens, I think it's one of the imported things from the aliens. They figured out, like, the magnetic field, if you think about it, it's very weird. So they must have engineered the magnetic field to actually work on Earth, because how would you have a planet just be magnetic? That doesn't really make sense, right? So they must have engineered the magnetic field in some way that it would just work, you know? There's some technology that we're missing from like 10,000 years ago that can do that. There must be.
Yes.
So.
I want to get back to Guam. I want to get back to Guam.
Yeah. The incident in Guam. So
all the people like that have to be stationed there to protect all the secret drugs and everything, right?
Yeah, the Vioxx.
Yeah. So basically, having to have all the people there to protect it, like all the bases covering it up and everything.
Yeah.
That's about 9.7 billion people on Guam. Now, if it flips over because all the weight, that'll be causing.
Oh yeah, and let me just add something here. Most people think the Earth's population is somewhere like, it's 8 billion, or it's it's like maybe it's 10 billion or something. Maybe it's all more that people are just reporting. It's actually somewhere, overpopulation is a real issue. It's actually closer to probably like 900 billion, about right. So there's actually way more people than you think that's just not being reported by the government, so that they can actually just cover up people suffering and stuff. And then they can use them in these big human farms where they take the babies and they take all the people. They use them for their hair that grows, their tongues, use them for organ. Like, how many people do you know that have donated blood or donated organs? Like, even just a little bit, you know? Like, there's not that many. So how do you think we get, like, all these people get organ transplants and stuff? They have these human farms that they use for all these people, and there's probably like there's hundreds of billions of people in these like human farms. It's very corrupt.
Yeah.
and the government's just covering it up.
It's very sad
Yeah,
to think they're just using them for
like hair and
getting,
toenails and teeth and
yes.
organs and yeah.
Also, the main ingredient of Vixen,
Vioxx.
Vioxx, is the soil from potato roots in Poland, especially Poland. Can't be from anywhere else. So the shortages of potatoes in Poland right now are crazy.
Oh yeah, and that's another thing that the government is underreporting. There's this shortage in Eastern Europe of potatoes, and you might be thinking, well, that's one of the most common things there. But they actually, all the potatoes are being funneled to all of the human farms where they gather all the flesh and the organs and stuff, and they take them. They take all of those and they use them for whatever, and they have to feed these people so they don't die. So they just take all of these. It's like a kolkhoz. It's like a collective farm. They take all of these resources from these Eastern European countries, and that's what happens.
Yes. And soy milk. I want to talk about soy milk. Soy milk is a huge problem too, cause remember, it comes from rotten cheese. It's mush rotten cheese. Secretly, they don't want to tell you about that. They want to tell you it's from it's vegan, healthy, or whatever you call it.
All that vegan stuff is just not true. It's simply all just lies. How do you make anything that's just plant-based or anything? How do you make that healthy? It would kill you, right? Vegans are stupid.
Yeah, I gotta fully agree with that. Also, watermelons. Watermelons are just red cucumbers.
I know. They were genetically engineered. Like I said, Martin Luther's dad is a very influential. He was a scientist, and what happened was he genetically. So his church in Germany, needed to. They needed food that they could grow, right? But they needed something that would be like large and something that would be green and red for Christmas. So he genetically engineered, with the help of the aliens and the scientists of the time. Because think about it, he was a high up individual, right, in Germany. So he knew about the aliens and everything. So he was communicating with the aliens, and so he genetically engineered. He harnessed that power, and he made these things called that we call watermelons now. And they're red and green for Christmas, for the Christian tradition.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good actually, and that's why they're genetically engineered. You can't make something that's like that. That meets all those requirements. They can't occur naturally, right? So that's very interesting.
And the only reason why the watermelons that are yellow inside is because some people, remember, are colorblind. Those were specifically made for the colorblind that couldn't see.
Right. So they make these,
yellow.
They genetically engineered, because disability. People think like, oh, back then they didn't really care about disability or disabled people. They actually did a lot, and they made that for colorblind people, so that they could actually see, and they could view the world how it was supposed to be. So they would just adjust the colors on things. So that's why you'll see like a bunch of the things that age, like how paper kind of turns yellow when it ages, things like that, like tea stains. Those are actually from things like that, from things being engineered to change color for disabled people with color blindness or blindness or things like that, right?
Yes.
Because how could matter just change spontaneously, right? It's all engineered to do that.
Yes. I will have to, and I want to add on that what do you call those people? Bangladeshians.
Yeah, people from Bangladesh.
Yes.
They have, can I talk about them for a minute?
Yes.
They have a bunch of ancient traditions that were actually passed down from the aliens. They're the closest people
Yeah.
to the aliens that we have.
That's exactly
So if you look at
what I'm talking
Bangladeshi tradition and like Hinduism and stuff, Buddhism, you can see all of that knowledge. It's a very interesting religion because all that knowledge was passed down and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Every night, the alien tries to abduct me. Like they just try to grab me
No,
and pick
it's
me up
scary.
and bring them to whatever they live on. Yeah, every night. And also the Russian doctors, of course, trying to
yeah,
make
they do
you
that to
alive
me
and
too.
use a they use a no char heck they use a they
I
try to
think
use a
there's this technology that
char
they use. It's
yes
Is your Wi-Fi breaking down? I think
they
you might need to mute yourself real quick. Hold on. They used it.
Alright.
Try muting yourself real quick. There's this one technology they use, and it's kind of used in hospitals, but they won't tell you. It's this thing that they use to like say that your grandpa died, but they're really using him to harvest the organs for the community and stuff for organ donors and things like that. I think it's called a 1.2 gag revelator, if I'm correct.
yes.
Yeah.
What, can you hear me well?
I can hear you now. Yes. But it
Yes,
was called a
I wanna talk about the
1.2
1.2
gag
gra-
revelator, and
I wanna
it's
talk
a
about
very
it real quick.
interesting technology because I think it uses it harnesses. It's one of the last like technologies that the government's allowing from the aliens.
Yeah.
So it's like a technology where there's like it uses an oscillating wave between like a certain frequency. I don't know what the frequency is, but it's a certain frequency, and it just it medically induces like a state where they're just kind of
Cardiac arrest.
cardiac arrest. Yeah, that's one of the symptoms of it. And it's very it's just goofy. I don't know. It's what am I thinking of? It puts them in like a comatose state, so they can just be harvested. Pretty much all of the things that their body does, like breathing and like all of that can be used for energy and stuff. And they just feed them the potatoes from Poland, right?
Yes. But you're also talking about these potatoes that are most of the potatoes that are fed to people under comas after using the 1.2 gag revelator are about 3 years old. They're already expired. They're watered down and everything.
Right.
It's almost like a mashed potato,
Right.
except it's worse. And I think the 1.2 gag revelator is also using alien technology from
Of course it is.
Mars. The aliens
from
from Mars.
Mars.
Yes.
Well, they actually
Yes.
come from I think it's the planet Kepler 186f.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think what star? Let me look up. Hold on. Let me pull up what star that orbits. Okay, yeah, it orbits the red dwarf Kepler 186 at about 580 light years away. So that's where they come from. And they have this. They can put themselves in like a cryo state so that they can like cryo. I think it's called like cryotherapy or something, where they can just stay basically frozen and let the ship go on autopilot, the spaceship, until they get to Earth, and they can just be alive there, and then they just do the same thing, and it's like that, like time hasn't passed for them.
Yeah.
So,
and Star Wars, you know how like they have spaceships and everything, they could travel at super.
Yeah, Star Wars is
super
actually
speed and
the guy who created Star Wars.
Star Wars is trying to warn out.
Yeah,
They
it
were
is.
trying to warn
The
us
guy
the
who
whole
created
time.
Star Wars, he was one of us. He knew about this stuff. He wasn't to the extent that we do. He doesn't know because back then they didn't reveal as much, and it wasn't as clear, the science, the actual science. And but he did know a little bit, and so he was trying to warn us about it.
Yes.
And he was
See,
using
they were
the
trying
mask
to
of
warn
like,
us
you
about
know
it.
how it's like World War II in Star Wars, which was just a conspiracy about it. I don't think it really happened, World War II. And the Russian doctors that they said that World War II didn't actually happen. I don't know believe that entirely, but I don't think it was like really as bad as I say. Maybe there were like a 1 or 2 battles or something, but
Yes.
it was the people that died. It was like a cover up, you know. World War II was just a
Yeah.
cover up for something else that they were doing at the time. Probably some UFO mission, creating a UFO, or the 1.2 gag revelator development, or something like that. So
Yes. Well,
it's
what
been-
what are some other things that we could
Can I
talk
tell
about?
you like what the doctors have been up to with me recently? I'll
Yeah,
tell you.
yes.
So what they did last night? So they came into my room last night. They broke through. They pounded through the boards on my window, my door. So I used these tungsten rods, and I used these like walnut oak board, or these oak and walnut boards, and I nailed them to my doorknob so it can't turn. And I have a shotgun booby trap at there too. But these doctors, they're really interesting. They seem to be unfazed. I mean, they're Russian, so they're pretty strong. Russians are just genetically superior. But so they seem to just be fine with the shotgun blast and everything. But they go with the shotgun blast, and they break in somehow. I don't know, like the tungsten rods and everything just disappear in the morning. But they came in, and so what they did last night, they were throwing these cans of, I think it was, there's this product called pre-mixed Jack and Coke. It's Jack Daniels and Coke, and they were just throwing the cans at me. They were just lobbing them at me at full speed, and it was insane. It hurt like a bitch, but it was, yeah, they kept throwing them at me. And what they also did was they did, I think I might have said this already, but they did Chinese water torture to me with with root beer. They used, I think it was a mixture of IBC cream soda, and I think it might have been, I think it was A&W root beer, or maybe it was Mug, I'm not sure. But they used a mixture of those, and it was like an acidic balance, and they were dripping it onto my eyelids. And I think I've told you this before, but I managed to keep my eyelids natural. So your eyelids closing up and down are actually mandated by the government now. Whenever you're born, so the hospitals will actually put those on there for you. So if you feel your eyelids, you see it's like concave to your eye. That's not natural. They're supposed to be flat. So my eyelids go they go horizontally, so they close from left to right. And so they were dropping this mixture into my eyelids, and it hurt a lot. So, and they were trying to pry it open with, I think, I was trying to close my eyes, and they were trying to pry them open. I think, what tool was it? I think it was a Swiss Army knife, but it was blue, so it was a blue Swiss Army knife. I don't know how they got a blue one, but they did. And they also were armed with an AN-94 rifle, which they were loading with, I think, the 7N6 bullet used by Russia. It's like known as the poison bullet. It's part of a developmental thing with the aliens, right? And the aliens went, and I think let me remember the story. So the Soviet Union colluded with them when the Americans weren't. The Soviets won them over, basically. And so they developed this bullet, and these Russian scientists that come and work on me, they have these bullets, and they're strapped with them, and they can just blow into the casing, and it ignites the primer and black powder, and they don't even need any compression or chamber, and it just goes straight. So they were like doing darts, like blow darts, but with real 7N6 rounds, and they were doing them at my wall. So there were these massive holes in my wall. Now I have to fix them, and I have to get some more tungsten rods to block my door. So
Also, another thing that the government really wants to hide is that Isaac Newton invented gravity, not discovered it, not like,
right, because if you look at certain things that were made before, like if you look at people are often like, wow, how did they do this? Like 300, 400
before
years
Isaac
ago.
Newton was invented.
But the reason why they could do that was because gravity wasn't invented yet. So when Isaac Newton invented gravity, it was a huge game changer, and it allowed the discovery of many more things. But it also made a lot of the architecture a lot like stranger and behave weirdly and stuff. So think that's very interesting. All right, man. I think we should end the podcast here. It's been very good.
All right.
All right, man. I'll see you later. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Garrett.
Everyone, yeah, Pablo, thank you so much, man.
Right. No problem.
I'll see you later. Bye.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this podcast. It was very enjoyable to have Pablo on here, and I'll definitely have him on again sometime. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is the only time I'm going to ask on each episode. I'm only going to do it one time. Please like and subscribe. And have a great day. And don't let the government harm you. Cheers.